So, just finished episode 5 of The Acolyte. Um, Spoiler alerts, first off, for the whole show. I'm going to just get right into it, my thoughts about the show. Well, in that episode specifically. Um, just in general, I feel like The Acolyte has a problem with, like, spoiling itself. Like, it will give itself a really cool, like, story. You're like, oh no, what's gonna happen, and then it's like immediately like, oh yeah, this is who that is, and you're like, oh, okay. So if you don't want spoilers, here's the first one. So it's like Sith Lord shows up, you're like, oh my gosh, it's the Sith Lord. I want to know who it is. They're probably gonna wait until the end of the season, and it's gonna be someone else. And then no, they just show you. Then episode 5 is revealed into episode 4, and they're like, episode 5, here it is. It's the guy. It's the guy. I forget his name, but I'll be honest. He's a super cool, like, Sith Lord. I think so far, he's kind of. I feel like he's dumb when it comes to, like, hey, I want an acolyte, and then the acolyte kind of like ruins it for him. Uh, and you're just like, maybe pick a better acolyte. Maybe, I don't know. You probably could have seen that coming. I guess. The fights in this one were just amazing. They were so cool. Actual death. That's another thing. Actual death. Lightsabers actually doing something. The lightsabers actually stabbed. And when they stabbed, they stabbed. And when they cut, they cut. You finally had a Jedi where he got stabbed and he's like, I'm actually dead. All right. And then cut, and you're like, that guy's totally dead immediately. And he was actually dead. He didn't come back. And then main characters actually dying, like main characters to this season or this show passing away and being stabbed, not coming back, or their heads cracked. Literally, I never thought I'd see a neck break in Star Wars like that. Maybe we've seen it before, but it was amazing. It was very cool. So the villain is definitely he's awesome. An actual villain who's not afraid to destroy. Then, like, his disruptors, the villain's disruptors are just so cool. Like, that's such a cool concept. A helmet that just, like, a lightsaber. I think it's if you hit the hilt. I don't know if it's the hilt or just. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the hilt. Like, you hit around it and it just disrupts the lightsaber, it turns it off, and you're left defenseless. And there's actually good hand to hand combat. That they're fighting, and you're like, oh my gosh, who's gonna come out on top? Never would I have thought this show would have taken that turn. I was very concerned that I'm like, this show is gonna really just, like, they're gonna try to hide the fact that there's a Sith, and now I feel like the fact that they're not necessarily gonna hide it. It's just that nobody's gonna be around to see that there is a Sith. This show, I feel like, has had a rough start. Episode 3 was weird. You had a lot of like chanting and like 1, 2, 3, also all together, and you're just like, Disney sing along. But now I feel like we're getting into the meat and potatoes. Taking a couple bites. It's pretty good. Just the only other thing though is the main character. So, like, Osha and May. I feel like they could have done and made both of them more interesting. But the issue is like I've said, the show keeps on spoiling itself. It keeps on backing itself in a corner. The May being the sister and still being alive could have drug on until this episode. Like, she could have been the Acolyte's, like, acolyte. And now it's like you're kind of they constantly just keep on backing themselves into corners. She cut herself off from the Acolyte, and then now you're like, all right, well, she gonna go back? I don't know. Well, I guess we'll find out. But now it's like she knocked out Osha, and now May is on the ship, and that little weird thing is going, trying to figure out what's going on. I feel like I'm like that little weird thing. I'm that the rat, the tracker rat. I feel like that sometimes. Force heal. That's one thing I wrote down. Force heal's back. Initially, that's force heal is like one of those things I kind of like roll my eyes a little bit. It's an interesting concept, but I feel like if you overuse it too much, then it's like not so special, Let's make it special. Maybe it would be so cool if this Sith Lord was the only one who had that power, or had like a minuscule amount of that power. Like maybe he can heal small wounds, but not full on laser or lightsaber holes in you. Let's just keep it special. Let's keep it nice. Let's not overuse it. I think right now we're kind of overusing a lot of things. And one thing I forgot to talk on, the lightsaber hilts themselves are just huge. They're overly huge. They're like gripping like a Subway loaf of bread. That like the lightsaber hilts are too huge. But honestly though, like on a real note, I think this episode's one of the better ones. It's good. I would give it a 6.5 to a 7 out of 10, and that's not a bad score. Like I feel like now when people hear the word 7, because of IGN, they're like, oh, 7 means it's a 10 or like whatnot. But like on this on the my scale, a 7 to 6 is pretty decent. Just for this episode, for the whole other episodes, I would give them so much more less. And that's not outside of the show. I know there's a lot of like talking about like prior opinions coming into the show, like not liking the director or whatnot. I just, I'm such a big Star Wars fan. I don't care what it is. I'm going to watch it, and then I'll watch it, and then I'm going to tell you what's wrong with it. I just necessarily didn't really, did not really like, the first couple episodes, but this one's really good. So yeah, I definitely recommend you guys watching it. I also recommend you guys subscribing. That would be amazing. I think that would be amazing. Let's get to a good number. I don't want to, 50 subscribers. We'll do 25. Let's do 25. If we can get 25 subscribers, I'd be pretty happy. I don't only talk about Star Wars, but when I do, it's Star Wars. So, all right, have a good one.